Okay, everybody, here we go. Once again, we are gathered here today for In Progress. It's our weekly roundtable discussion of the Progress Texas staff on the stuff that is top of mind for us as we roll into the weekend. I'm Chris Mosier, podcasting director here at Progress Texas. We are a statewide nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. This week on the Horn, executive director Kathleen Thompson. Hi, KT.
Hey, folks.
Around the Horn, we have advocacy and development coordinator Tatum Owens. Hi, Tatum.
Hey there, howdy. Happy Friday.
Rest of the way around the Horn, digital associate Haley Smith. Hi, Haley.
Hi. Happy to be here.
So we are recording this particular recording at 10:22 a.m. on Friday, the 19th of December. Political news moves fast in Texas. Things may have changed by the time you hear this, so please accommodate that in your head. And welcome, especially if you're hearing us on Sunday morning on KPFT Radio in Houston. As always, a lot to talk about. We're coming up on Christmas. We're going to talk about Christmas today. And I've actually learned some new things about Christmas as we wrap up the talk today that I find to be very interesting and relevant to our current political moment, something that happened so long ago. According to the Bible, of course. And we're going to discuss that as we come around. To me, the most interesting and fun news of the week, and what I want to start with you guys, is the fact that for the first time, not only for the Texas Democratic Party, which is remarkable and seems remarkable for us, but this is also something that the Texas Republican Party has never accomplished before, and that is filling every state and federal race on the 2026 ballot. Neither party has ever done this before, so says the Texas Tribune. The complete field being the result of a recruitment program that was put together by a network of the state's top Democratic groups and politicians, including Texas Majority PAC, the Texas Democratic Party, former U.S. Representative Beto O'Rourke, who we've talked to recently on our podcast, and former State Senator Wendy Davis, who we've had on the podcast many times. And so let's start with you, Kathleen. It's definitely a big deal. To me, it shows heightened interest. It shows heightened organization. Do we think this means, is this an indication of an actual blue wave coming to Texas? What do we think?
I'm really pleased about the news that Texas progressives and Democrats are contesting every race. And it's not just statewide. And I want to highlight Tarrant County Democratic Chair Allison Campolo's post bragging that the Tarrant County Democratic Party is also contesting more state house races than Republicans because they're contesting all of them. They also have more judicial candidates than they've had in 30 years. Some of you listeners, some of you staff members, longer than you've been alive. So I think that, like we've been saying since this summer, people are pissed.
Yeah.
They know what's being taken from them to give to billionaires in America, and they're not going to take it anymore. And also, regular folks going about their daily lives are saying, look at what my state representative is doing. Look at what my president is doing. I could do a better job. So why not me? So I'm really pleased to see so many people step up and say, even if I'm a first-time candidate, as the reports have said, a lot of newcomers, not people who have run for office before or been elected before, but are going to give it a try. And I really appreciate the fight, because this is going to be a big fight in 2026.
Some news came out this week about DNC Chairman Ken Martin refusing to release the basically autopsy of the 2024 elections. And so to me, I feel very proud to have leaders in Texas progressive circles and Democratic circles that are actually acknowledging what voters are asking of them. I think that once again, Texas Dems are leading the way for the rest of the nation to be able to see, how do you actually defend democracy and how do you be a representative instead of just somebody that gets elected and goes and does their own thing. So I think it's a feat, an achievement to get so many people involved in the fight, like Kathleen said, for the first time for many. And so I think we will also see, at the very least, a strong symbol of people being united together against authoritarian attacks. We'll see if the voters show up to the polls with this symbolic act. But this alone, I think, goes down in the history books.
And I've seen a lot of the Republican response to this. Like, I'm reading the Tribune. Governor Greg Abbott's chief strategist said, when they start funding these outliers, get back to me. And it's such a dismissive quote. And I think it speaks to how much or how they see politics, which is just a pay to play game. But it's not, at least not in this country, not right now. And whenever the voters have an option, a real option for somebody who will actually fight for them, I think they'll be surprised that they can't just buy an election anymore. And so I'm really excited to see how this is going to turn out. And yeah, I'm really proud of this united front that Democrats have put on.
Yeah, Haley, I'm going to push back against that and say it very much is pay to play these days. Like in the age of Citizens United, lobbyists and many a rich tech and oil billionaire can buy your elected representatives, as we have seen.
Look at Senate District 9.
Exactly. And so this is where we are right now, but that's why this is so much more needed. We need people to stand up against that and just show up and show that billionaires are not going to be able to buy your elected representatives. So show them.
Yeah, maybe I'm a little optimistic.
Well, hey,
that's the way it should be. It was.
We should be approaching all of this. Optimism and realism are both valuable components to what's happening moving forward. I will say that this guy with Abbott's camp does have a point that if the Democratic Party and all this effort, during which what I'm reading here, they interviewed something like 1,400 potential candidates and ended up fielding about 104 of them. So only about 10% of the people that they talked to about running for office in all these different places actually are going to be on the ballot. So it's been a highly selective process from that angle. I do think, though, that if they don't have a plan, we don't know what the plan is, but if they don't have a plan to back up these people with some degree of financial backing and organizational backing, that it may end up being a little bit of what Greg Abbott's folks say, which is just kind of window dressing or whatever. I firmly believe, though, two things here. The Democratic Party cannot accomplish this without some degree of both a guarantee that there will be some backing for these people, making it worth their while to try, and also the idea that the atmosphere is proper for this to happen, that all these people see in their own communities that there's a heightened interest in finding an alternative to what has become, a stranglehold by the Republican Party on Texas. If these people weren't seeing this in their daily lives with their friends and neighbors, if it was business as usual and no one was paying attention, I would think that most of them would probably be reluctant to take on the very difficult job of running for office at any level in Texas, especially as a Democrat. So kudos to everybody involved. We had talked about getting with Kendall Scudder, who's the chair of the Texas Democratic Party, and also Representative Christina Morales, who is the new chair of the House Democratic Campaign Committee, to talk about all this. That's been postponed a little bit. We're going to get that done to talk about these plans, talk about these very important plans at some point in the early part of 2026 as that rolls forward. Okay, moving along down the news cycle here. As I recall last week, we were hearing from one Haley Smith, who is a proud Brazoria County native, which is close enough to Houston to make her our de facto Houston correspondent, that there was a censure vote, a reprimand vote, being done by the Harris County Democratic Party against Houston Mayor John Whitmire. Haley, what do you know about that and how that turned out?
Well, the Houston Progressive Caucus proposed a resolution that would bar current Mayor John Whitmire from receiving any endorsements or support from the Harris County Democratic Party. And it passed, and it was successful. And overwhelmingly, yeah. I can't say I'm surprised. John Whitmire isn't exactly the most popular guy down there, but yeah, much like the full slate of Democratic candidates, I think that progressives are presenting a united and strong front going into 2026. And I think this is just yet another example of flexing this newfound power in organizing and realizing that there's more of us than there are of them.
So, yeah, John Whitmire, has not made any friends on the progressive side. All the stuff that has happened is, I would say, more or less 1,000% guarantee that there will be at least one challenger next time he has to run, which I believe is in 2027. From his left in Harris County, and we'll see who that ends up being. That's going to be a big deal when that happens, by the way. Biggest city in the entire state, most diverse city in the entire country. So it's a big deal. Speaking of which, and for all those same reasons, this is also perplexing. Also this week, we caught news from Governor Greg Abbott that he has a grand plan to, in his words, turn Harris County dark red in 2026. Note he doesn't say bright red. Note he doesn't say vibrant red. He says dark red, which to me, the word dark definitely, spells out a whole bunch of what's going on here. The governor is prepared, it says here from the Houston Chronicle, to pour $25 million out of his own campaign coffers. That's over a quarter of the money that he has stashed away. That's a lot of money. Into this effort to turn Harris County, a Democratic stronghold he lost by 10 percentage points in 2022, dark red, as he seeks a record fourth term in office, according to details of the plan shared with Hearst newspapers. We've had a lot of contact with a whole bunch of our Democratic friends in Harris County and around Houston. I haven't heard from any of them any worry about Harris County or Houston slipping to the dark side, as Governor Abbott puts it out here. Tatum, any idea about what you think about, is this likely? Is he really going to do this? And does he have any chance of being successful?
What I will say is that Governor Abbott has it out for Harris County. Just over the course of his tenure, he has continuously specifically targeted Harris County. And so this is nothing new for him. And on top of that, there have been legislative attacks on Houston residents and their voting rights to specifically make it harder to vote in this county. And so while I don't think that it's turning dark red anytime soon, I think that it would be naive to say that you can expect voters to turn out, even in a historically blue city and county, and especially specifically vote suppressed county at that. We do have a high profile election coming up there. I think that people will focus on that. It's not like news is turning away from the CD18 election, which is only happening because Abbott has allowed people to remain disenfranchised there. So once again, these things all come together. But yeah, I don't see it turning dark red. I'm not going to say that definitively, though, because, you cannot give an inch. And I'm not letting Greg Abbott take away Houston from me, because when you have a stronghold like that in our state, you have to hold on to it tight. And you have to make sure that people are getting engaged at every single turn, because don't let him have the chance.
I don't want to say anything definitively either, but Harris County and Houston, to me, can be a little conservative. I mean, obviously it's a Democratic stronghold, but I think with the oil business and it's around a lot of rural areas, there can definitely be some conservative vibes over there, but I just don't see it. I agree with you guys in what we talked about earlier. I think there is way too much money in politics, and it does have an outsized impact. And Governor Abbott shouldn't be able to just pour $25 million into Houston and cross his fingers and try and get those voters. Even if Houston is dark red or conservative, I don't think they like Greg Abbott. I don't think they like Governor Greg Abbott. And a lot of the conservatives I've talked to down there, they will vote Republican all day, every day. They don't want to vote for Governor Greg Abbott. And he's running on property tax relief and bail reform, things that he had ample opportunity to do during his not one, but two special sessions. And he didn't. He instead tried to focus on cultural war. You can't swear in here, right?
No
we
swearing.
Can't swear on the radio.
We're on the radio, Haley.
Culture war BS.
There you go.
Can I do that?
Yes.
People, I just don't think are buying it. Like I said, I don't want to say anything definitively, knock on wood, but I don't think you got it, Greg.
Well, I'm just glad to see him spend some of his money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. He's pledging, what is it, 24 million?
25 million.
So, okay, go ahead and spend that money, Greg. And that's less money spent on disinformation and lies against whomever comes out of the Democratic primary.
Every penny that Greg spends on something that's not going to win is a win for Democrats for sure. So go for it, especially in a blue swinging election year where Trump is making ass at every turn. I mean, it seems like bad timing to me. At least wait for the momentum to be in your favor, Greg. It's not at the moment, I wouldn't say. I do want to mention, though, that this harkens back to something Haley said earlier, which is the bummer that it is that money does dictate political outcomes, and it just is part of the landscape. Citizens United and all the way through. So we shouldn't, to close out the Greg Abbott discussion, I'll say we shouldn't discount the power of $25 million sunk into a political
Totally.
effort.
A lot
So
of money.
Totally.
that is a ton of money. And so we got to watch that. So Christmas. This is our last in progress before Christmas. I do want to talk about Christmas. I'm a big fan of Christmas. My family is going to be heading for New Orleans for Christmas this year for the first time. That's going to be a lot of fun. When I think about Christmas through a political lens, the first thing I think of is the conservative thing that we've heard for years about how come people don't say Merry Christmas anymore? What's this Happy
Starbucks
Holidays
cups.
business?
Yeah.
And on and on. And, the reason for the season. And there is, of course, a religious basis to Christmas, as we all know, although there is an argument that prior to Christmas, there were things like winter solstice celebrations that were celebrated way back in the pre-Christian era. And so one could say that a lot of this predates Christianity. But I did want to talk about the story of Christmas as it relates to the various things that color our political selves. And that comes down to, what's right, what's wrong, who's got an advantage and who doesn't. Top-down sort of politics, which are all through the story of Christmas. Kathleen, I want to go to you first on this one. Kathleen was mentioning earlier that she has spent a fair amount of time as a person raised in Christian faith, talking about the story of Christmas, the birth of Jesus, as it were. Kathleen, give us your take on what we can learn as political people in 2025 from the story of the Nativity.
The story of the Nativity is when Mary and Joseph travel back to Bethlehem from Nazareth for a Roman census.
Right.
We all, I think, know the story that the baby Jesus is born in a stable because there's no room in the inn. And I don't want to be sacrilegious, but where are Joseph's family and friends that have Mary and Joseph, who is very young after traveling?
Where are the in-laws?
Why are they why did they have to go to an inn? Anyway, I digress. So the story is about the journey to Bethlehem, the birth in the stable, the angel appearing to the shepherds who were watching over their flock. And of course, in the New Testament, the flock is all of us that Jesus is tending to. The fulfillment of a Old Testament prophecy and the correlation today that is happening about a mile down from me at the Oak Lawn United Methodist Church, which has a nativity scene that says ICE was here.
Right.
Mary and Joseph are surrounded by a chain link fence topped with razor wire. And there are signs that says, "Holy is the refugee," and that God is with us on the margins. For a lot of progressives who are people of Christian faith, this is reminiscent that Mary and Joseph were traveling. The New Testament is steeped in conversations about taking care of the other,
right,
and the weak and the downtrodden and the hungry and the poor
and the foreigner and the immigrant
and the foreigner. So at this Christmas time, for people like my family, we're remembering the story of Christ's birth as how we would want to be treated as someone traveling who's hungry, tired, 9 months pregnant, delivering a baby.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I think the story of Christmas right now is especially poignant with what we're doing to immigrants in our country under the Trump administration's policies that has led to the deportation of U.S. citizens and veterans. And it's something for all of us to think about.
Two things really is what my brain went to. The first one is a quote that I heard from James Talarico, and I've thought about it a lot ever since I heard him say it. And it was, I don't scream at God for the children in Gaza. The children in Gaza is God screaming at me. And I think we all, I'm not super religious. I was raised in the church a little bit, but the one thing I took from those teachings is that we all have a responsibility to each other. And if we don't take care of each other, what's the point? Why are we here? There are so many Christians out there who seem to love Jesus and nobody else. And I really wish that they would see that where you find God's love is within each other. And that is that is the reason for the season. That is why you get with your loved ones around Christmas time. And it's to celebrate the life that you've created and love one another. And there are so many hateful conservatives who try to weaponize that. And it makes me, I'm not even a follower of Christianity, and it makes me sad. I can't imagine somebody who genuinely has Christ in their heart seeing religion be bastardized this way. Can I say that actually? Edit. That's a real word.
I think bastardized works
That
on
it's
the
a real
radio.
word. That's not a swear
Okay.
word.
If I think anything that Bart Simpson can say, we can pretty much say.
That's a good rule.
Let me wrap out our Christmas talk by saying that it is a poignant moment to realize that the Christian nationalist movement has also become the whole gospel of prosperity movement, that you're rich because God wants you to be rich because you're one of the chosen, or whatever that might be. I don't know that much about that line of thinking, but we understand that based on what we see in mega churches and places like that, around Christmas, these giant, displays of expensive and elaborate displays of fireworks and everything else that has very, very little to do with the message of the birth of the Messiah. From the Christian teaching. There are other things about that story that jump out at me, and one of them, I actually was led by Charlie Kirk to look into this a little bit. I saw a clip of Charlie Kirk talking about the idea that Jesus actually was not an immigrant because the family's journey from Judea to Egypt was all happening within the current borders at that time of the Roman Empire. In other words, they were Roman citizens both in Judea and also in Egypt, and so they weren't immigrants per se, which is highly disingenuous because Judea was a very, very different place culturally, religiously, in every different way than Egypt was. They were night and day sort of places. This is like saying that, rural Oklahoma is the same as New York City. It's very, very different. And just the fact that they were forced by Roman decree to make this census journey, as Kathleen said, in the middle of a difficult, advanced pregnancy, is also an example of top-down sort of, I would say fascistic sort of government rule. That the census was about taxes and about, military conscription and all that sort of stuff. It was not about, necessarily taking care of citizens. It was about extracting things from the citizenry by the Roman Empire. Plus, you had Herod and all the stuff that he was doing, which was not cool either. So there's a lot to the Christmas story once you dig into it and kind of understand. If you accept the story of Jesus, by the way, as historical fact, it did happen within the confines and within the boundaries of things that we do consider to be historical fact. When you look at all those different things and compare that story to what was actually happening in the world, in that part of the world at that time, there's plenty that we can learn about our current political moment from the story of the birth of Jesus. So we all encourage you to have a meaningful and happy and Merry Christmas and happy holiday, whatever religious field that you follow. But we also want you to do it with your eyes open and think about what we're talking about here and really consider it as it applies to our modern moment today.
Something else that happened this week was we celebrated our second annual holiday event. And at both of our holiday events this year, for the first time ever, we put on live podcasts. What we did this time was provide a statewide slate of candidates that will be taking on 2026, running into it, honestly. We had candidates for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, fill me in. Who else, folks? Who did we have? We had Gina Hinojosa for governor, Vicki Goodwin for lieutenant governor. Rep. Gene Wu was there. God, is he a good speaker?
May I say that when I rolled up to the Dallas event, Rep. Wu was standing outside the door. He was literally the first person to show up there.
He's awesome.
He is awesome.
Yeah. And then, of course, Joe Jaworski for Attorney General at our Dallas event. If you haven't already checked it out, we recorded in Austin, which seems eons ago. That was on filing deadline day, with Sarah Eckhart for Comptroller, which had changed that day, Senator Roland Gutierrez, and Austin City Council member Zoe Kadri. So all across the board, we have a ton of progressives that are leading the way forward and just showing people that if you just show up and recognize what people are saying, you listen in, then we can do it together. I think that it was a really interesting conversation. There was definitely lots of grief over just so much strife this year. We're planning our best and worst Texans of 2025 list right now. And wow, it was a bad year just overall. But in the midst of that, I keep harping on this point of people stood together, because that has to be the takeaway to stay hopeful.
Well, kind of part of our regular ongoing reality over the 15 years that Progress Texas has been doing what we do. Every year is kind of a crappy year, honestly. So my hope is that that the doom and gloom of it all has begun to turn into motivation. And people understanding what we're up against and realizing that we have an opportunity to push back against it for sure. So that was kind of the vibe I got from our, both of those occasions were record attendance. And so again, thanks to all of our supporters and everybody who came out to these, all of our panelists. Definitely takes a village, and the villagers were having a great time at both of those particular events. And so that was really, really great.
Before we leave the holiday parties, I just want to say that yes, in Texas, as progressives, we're on the defense. We have the numbers to have elected officials and go on the offense, like the Minnesota Miracle, but we're just not voting like that yet. So what Chris is saying about every year feeling demoralizing, there's truth to that. But also, before every event, Chris and I and the staff are saying, like, hope people show up, hope people come out of their houses. It's gotten cold. Put your pants on or put your dress on and come on out. And we had standing room only, and then eventually sold out in Dallas. So I really appreciate the folks who could have stayed at home and put on their fuzzy slippers and said, I'm done. But people wanted the community. And I think it's really good to get offline and to gather together with like-minded people, and their strength in numbers.
Feel free to stay online and listen to our pods or radio anytime, though. But otherwise, do get out of the house and go see us in person.
Yes. Yeah. Put on some pants once again. So I want to throw in real quick here, and this is not, a paid advertisement or anything at all, but I want to shout out both of the locations where we had our parties. We don't mention them too terribly often. First of all, in Austin, Sierra and Harper at Antone's, which of course is the storied blues music club in downtown Austin, celebrating their 50th anniversary. We also learned while we were there that they have just signed a 50-year lease starting now for the next 50 years at their current location in downtown Austin. The upstairs room there, if you're looking to do an event, is a terrific, terrific place. We've done several there now. It's kind of become our home base in Austin, sort of for these sort of events anyway. And so thanks very much to Antone's. And I would say the exact same thing about our friends at the People's Last Stand, Jacob and his crew there. Terrific bar, kind of in the upstairs layer of Mockingbird Station in Dallas. Easily the most democratic bar I've ever been in terms of their decor. It's all of the civil rights icons. It's all LBJ and JFK, and it's real cool, and even maybe some Bob Marley up in there. I think Bob Marley probably was a Democrat, but I don't know that for sure. Anyway, my point is People's Last Stand, Antone's, terrific places, not only for gatherings, but just for a drink or some music any old time.
That's funny that you mentioned Democratic icons or historical figures. Sorry, I hate to be that person. I was on Twitter the other day.
What?
And
on Twitter?
Governor Gavin Newsom, California, posted a basically Ronald Reagan fluff post. It was just, I love Ronald Reagan so much, and I'm kind of like him. And then got a lot of flack for that, because obviously we're still facing backlash from the Ronald Reagan presidency today. And that's Trump trying to emulate that. One of the greatest in Republican achievements, right? So to be a Democratic official, it kind of laughs in the face of what you might think the party would want. He immediately, within the day, posted a pic of FDR, I think. Fair enough. You've got both sides. You're covering it, but it was just a funny moment to me, because it's just a little tone deaf, which, Dems can be at times, can be.
Yeah,
he especially.
Just the pivot immediately to FDR was just so funny. Like, I saw the Ronald Reagan tweet, and then I was like, oh. And then, like, probably an hour of scrolling, I just, saw the FDR thing. I was like, really, Gavin?
Yeah.
It's the same style, too. Just black and white photo. And then, exactly.
Newsom feels like a super progressive guy to most of us. But, as we've had, folks on our staff from California note, more than once, he's actually pretty middle of the road, sort of centrist sort of dude. And so this little Reagan slip up definitely kind of shows that for sure. So that's going to do it for In Progress for this weekend. We appreciate the hang very much. Once again, we appreciate very much all of our supporters, all the folks who listen, all the folks who have attended our events. We deeply appreciate our friends at KPFT Radio for giving us a toehold on the FM dial and one of our favorite places in the world, which is Houston, Texas. And so that is awesome. A quick round of holiday greetings from everybody real quick, starting with you, Kathleen.
Happy holidays, everybody. Hope they're safe and relaxing and you get some time and peace for yourself.
All the same to our listeners right now. And I just want to say I'm so proud of the work that Progress Texas has done this year, including this new spot on KPFT. Thank you, KPFT. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to our listeners for helping spread progressive values. So I'm just really thankful to be part of this team, to be in this place in Texas, despite the hardships. And I hope that everybody is able to have yummy food, be with family, and just try to just keep trucking in spite of it all.
Same here, everybody. Happy holidays. Get some rest. Get some enrichment before next year because we're going to need it.
And as I mentioned, we're doing the holiday in New Orleans. And so I'll tell everybody, don't drink too much and don't eat too much. Play it cool out there and have a safe holiday season. And we look forward to a terrific new year in 2026. Progress Texas is a statewide nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. In Progress also airs on KPFT Radio in Houston, 90.1 FM HD2 every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. More information on the radio station is available at kpft.org, and more info about our work at Progress Texas can be found at progresstexas.org.